Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show, and joined by a shaman drummer, rhythmist, really hoping to break up time and form this evening. John Molo, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Hey, it's great to be here from the streets of Santa Cruz.
Can you talk about a musician that you played with where the beat falls, they have impeccable time, but the beat falls in the weirdest place?
I would say, unusually enough, Bruce Hornsby can put it right in the center or behind the beat. He's very much into a pianist, we know him as Wynton Kelly. And probably Wynton Marsalis may be named after Wynton Kelly. Wynton Kelly was an ultimate great phraser on the piano. And Bruce can put it way back, but also because of extensive use with the metronome, he can play dead center. And if you think of somebody who plays right in the middle, right on it, Warren Haynes is another example of very interesting phrasing. To me, it seems Warren is not ahead or behind, but very thick, right in the middle. Similar to his pitch when he's singing. It's real thick, and it's a great sound. So those two guys hit me. And then there's tons of guys I've listened to over the years that I think have just fantastic phrasing.
What about Phil Lesh?
Phil is a very interesting guy in that he gave himself permission to develop his own style.
He gave himself permission. I love it.
Yeah, and he got permission.
I dig it, man.
From the band, you know. And just a slight side story on this, because I know you're pretty knowledgeable with this. When my daughter Shannon was in, I think, 2nd or 3rd grade, I ran into a woman who told me that her brother played bass. And I said, "Oh, that's great. Did he pass away?" And she said, "Yes, he passed away." And I said, "Well, who did you play with?" She said, "Bill Evans." And I said, "You're Scott LaFaro's sister." And I reached out and actually put my hand on her wrist, and I said, "Oh, I'm sorry." And she goes, "It happens when people are familiar with my brother's playing." And I said, "That is beautiful." Phil reminds me of Scott LaFaro in a way.
Explain that. Because I'm obsessed with, I've interviewed so many cats. I'm doing a documentary on Stan Getz, played with LaFaro. How do you compare? Because Lesh, to me, well, you break it down.
Okay, so for me, Phil's thing is a lot of like from the heart up into the head. It's note selection, it's phrasing, and it's not giving away the chorus or the pivot points. He makes you really stay inside the music and join in with it. And now, having said that, I think his note selection is really on it. But one of the reasons you, or somebody like me, works with Phil is because I hopefully got this thing going from the heart on down into the primordial gut. And that's why my chemistry with Phil is just sort of an unspoken thing. We get along just great musically. But that's what I hear with Phil. He was given permission from the band, and he gave himself permission to develop his own style. And he had the time and the group of people to play for that would be open to it.
Talk to younger peeps around the world that'll be seeing this live, and also, down the road. How did you develop your own? How did you become comfortable being yourself on the kit, like having your own individual sound? Was it live gigs? I used to think it was a supply and demand issue, but now I actually think it's a patronage issue as far as live music. But I'm curious about how you developed your own individual sound.
Well, I started when I was 12, but I heard it when I was 5, and I knew from the time that I heard drums. I love music. My sister played piano. I didn't want to play piano. I didn't want to play guitar. There were already a lot of those guys. Drums spoke to me in a very deep way. And I think I was at Andrews Air Force Base, and there was a jazz trio on stage. And I walked up to the drums, and the mounted tom was about as tall as I was. So I had to be about 3 to 4 years old. And the guy behind the drum kit said, "Would you like to play drums?" And I was like, "Yeah, right now. I'm ready to get behind the kit." I thought he was going to let me get up there and play. I was like 3 or 4 years old. So I knew. And I found my gift early. I knew I loved music. But I loved music as much as I loved drums. So fortunately, I had a group of nuns that were the singing nuns of Southeast DC at San Francis Xavier. They were a soulful group. They were the music.
You want to give a shout out to nuns? They get a bum rap.
Yeah, they really do. Sister Mary Phillip, God rest her soul.
I mean, to me, it's like I'm like this guy was raised by serious nuns, and you're the most individualistic drummer. Yeah. So, like, I mean, they were pretty hip.
Yeah, I had 3. Sister Ann Ignatius told my parents that I would never have a nervous breakdown. Sister Mary Phillip basically taught me how to read. Sister Rose Veronica helped develop my sense of humor and my confidence in music. And she wrote me a letter when I moved away, and it said, John, you are so fortunate to have parents like that and to have moved to the community that you have moved to. Much love, Rose Veronica. And it was just very touching to me. So but when we moved to the suburbs in McLean, it was a little different. The nuns weren't quite the soulful type that I had in DC. But I did have some great experiences.
Not even close.
Yeah. So when I moved
but this is this is really important. The lab band, did you cut records and like the lab band stuff? To me, you were playing, what kind of covers were you playing? Were you turning them inside out?
You're talking about in high school?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, at Langley High School.
Dude, the headiest lab bands at that time.
Yeah.
I wasn't even born. But
Yeah.
you go back and listen to that stuff, it is, I mean, pop music was so hot at that time, so you cover some really amazing stuff.
Yeah, we did, I think, Mercy, Mercy, Song from My Father, Who Will Buy, a bunch of different stuff. And then we had a guy, Langley High School was kind of affluent. So I went from St. Francis Xavier in DC to St. John's in McLean for a couple of years. But then I found Langley, and they had a great emphasis on drama and music. So the lab band thing came along my senior year, and it was a copy of North Texas probably, or Berkeley School of Music in Boston. And we had a great teacher named George Horan. Now you got to check this out.
Yeah,
the guy
dig
that graduated 2 years before me played with Barry Manilow. Then I came along and ended up playing with Hornsby. And the guy after me was a guy named Tom Gregnon, who supposedly had an audition with Frank Zappa and was able to sight read the whole book. So there were 3 drummers in a row that were pros, which is like a high school baseball team putting out 3 pitchers that make it to the major leagues. So we had a serious, great teacher in George Horan. George came up to me before the Army Field Band was going to play my senior year, and he goes, John, 2 really good drummers tonight. They both sound really good, but one guy has maybe a better sound. They both have a great feel. So the first drummer came out was great, second drummer came out, and his sound was amazing. It sounded like there were mics on the kits. He just played it great, and it was Steve Gadd. So that was a great experience for me, and that my teacher...
Was it 64?
No, this was 71. 71.
Wow.
It's the dates I have on the Steve Gadd. And the other reason is because after we did that, I got called to go audition for the Army Band. And Steve Gadd was there, and he was really nice. I didn't get the gig.
I have a question for Mr. Molo.
You can call me Molo.
Molo. You were a young man at 20 years old in 1973, but the first record that you are credited on is Hornsby in 86. And it's like, where, fill in the blanks there. I mean, were you just like on the road all the time? Like, I'm trying to figure out, like, your career should have been, I mean, it needs to be documented earlier.
There are a few things here and there.
I need to know what those are, dude. I mean, because it doesn't make sense, dude. It doesn't add up.
Yeah, there was a guy on the East Coast, Tim Ironman, the East Coast Offering. He had a record deal. Did a couple records with him around 78. And they were okay. They were sort of like Tom Scott records, but live it was pretty happening. But mostly I was playing live, and really, let's get back to what you were saying. How did I develop my thing? By playing a lot of gigs for $50.
Sure.
Jazz, country, blues, just about anything. And
you had a huge repertoire, though.
Yeah.
You had a huge bag.
Yeah, so I have that, but I don't have a lot of documented recordings. The Hornsby stuff's easy because they started becoming big popular pop records. But before that, I was doing the Palomino in LA and doing country demos and just about all sorts of stuff.
But I mean, is there a record, a Mercurial record out there that Molo's on from like 77 or so? I mean, I was born in 78. I'm like, where is his discography
I'll
prior?
have to dig it up, man. It's funny you would say that because I was mostly around DC and Virginia Beach, developing my thing. I hadn't gone to LA yet. I was not that type of player. So it took me a while. Although early 80s, you can hear me on like some Hill Street Blues and Hardcastle McCormick.
Are you doing jingles and
a little bit
and soundtracks?
Yeah, I did a jingle for Miller Beer. That was really good. Carl's Jr., I did that too. So just funny stuff. But I was playing and I was in the studio. I just wasn't making records that were for record companies.
Before I let you go, drum energy. It's important because we live in a time of heavy facility, heavy chops. That's what's glorified. Can you please riff on drum energy and how you can bring it to the Rustlers tonight? Because I already told Sears I want you guys stretching everybody out tonight, dude. Like whether they like it or fucking not.
Yeah, we can do that. My thing,
hey, I know you can do that, dude.
My thing is really from a musical point of view, playing drums. I'm kind of over the technical part. I've gotten that together in all those years I was working and playing all those different styles. Having said that, I think my job is to make those guys feel really comfortable with stretching out. Chris needs to feel like a deep groove and in his wheelhouse singing-wise. I like to provide that. I've known Chris for years. I think I know what he likes. Barry, Pete, and I have that great connection of doing hundreds of gigs, whether it's with Moon Alice or Dave Nelson. We've developed our thing. So
Trust, man.
I really try to just provide a great sort of safety net for them to go for it. I don't want to be draconian or Procrustean in any way and ram it down anybody's throat. But at the same time, I want to be strong and have a nice touch. So that's what I'm going to try to do. But really, whether I'm playing with Fogerty or Chris or Bruce, Phil, I want them to feel comfortable doing their thing. And really, that's the job of drumming.
One final question. How do you keep yourself, how do you get off on a gig that where the same song is the same set every night? Ron Tutt, I got a great hang with Tutt, and he plays with Neil Diamond.
I love it.
And he's doing, I mean, this is the most, I mean, he was humbled by reggae, but the dude is ridiculous. You know, and he was just saying that, I was asking him how he got off on that formulaic stuff, knowing that you can groove and play transcendent music that can expand consciousness. I don't know if those cats are playing hits to people that want to hear something from the past, as opposed to creating new music vocabulary. You dig?
Yeah, man. And he played with Jerry, and I love the stuff he did with Jerry, and I love the stuff he did with Elvis. When you're doing a show like Fogerty does, the same show every night, you're like doing a Broadway play. I mean, I said about 10 shows in with Fogerty, I was like, this is like Groundhog Day with Bill Murray. It starts the same, and it's going to end the same. And so those things are a challenge. I feel very fortunate to be able to go up and go, okay, we're going to play this song, people are going to dig it, but we're going to really try to take it someplace and bring it back and have the people land in a really safe, familiar place after their cosmic, harmonic journey, wherever we take them. So that's my take on it. And by the way, Ron Tutt, top 5 all-time favorite drummers.
I want to give a shout out. One of my, I think he's out in LA somewhere, but he was a tech for you. Spoke very high, loves you dearly. Is Jake Loveridge? He's tuning in.
Man.
Do you talk about all the cats that once you actually are gifted with the opportunity to have techs and to you have to set up your own shit?
Yeah.
Can you talk about like the unseen work that those cats do?
Yeah, it's a lot of work. Just the drum kit, if you think of it as 6, 7 different instruments, cymbals, another 3. Jake is so gifted with the drums. Jake did some other stuff as well. He would walk around the building and make sure if anything happened, how the band would get out, that we weren't locked in. He had some skills that went beyond just tuning, and strong personality, strong skills. But I've had
loves you, like spoke highly of you, man. Like so I wanted to give him a shout out on this.
That's great. Yeah, Jake, please give me a call.
Absolutely.
Hey, I talk some drums. Gary Grimm's another great one. Harry McCarthy, who was drum tech down in Nashville, great. Or actually, he lives in Nashville now. The drum doctor out of LA. There are so many guys I work with. I'm leaving a couple people out. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate.
John Molo.
Yeah,
what an honor, man.
Pleasure.
Have a great hang.
Okay, we'll extend this.
Absolutely.
And we'll talk about all the guys in the Dead and Fish.
Peace.
Peace out, man.